I thought I found peace when I moved into that neighborhood. I had no idea I was stepping into a nightmare. Moved into a small, quiet neighborhood thinking it would be the perfect place to start over. The kind of place where you could leave your door unlocked and wave at your neighbors as they mowed their lawns. It was quiet, peaceful, too peaceful in hindsight. Everything changed the night he moved in. He came with his elderly parents, moving into the house directly next to mine. From the outside, nothing seemed off. He was just some middle-aged guy, wiry frame, average height, always wearing this faded windbreaker like he was clinging to a memory. I didn't know his name, and he never offered it. He moved like someone who didn't want to be noticed but couldn't help making his presence known. That first night was when it started. It was late. The kind of late where the world is so quiet, you can hear your own heartbeat. I was reading in bed when I heard it. A knock at the door. Not loud, not desperate. Just tapping. Almost gentle. Like someone didn't really want to be heard, but still hoped you'd listen. I sat there frozen, listening to it repeat. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't answer. I didn't even move. I just waited, holding my breath, until it stopped. The next morning, I wrote it off. Maybe it was a drunk teenager. Maybe it was someone who had the wrong house. Maybe it didn't even happen. Then came the second knock. This time it was broad daylight. Just around mid-morning. Same soft tapping. This time I opened the door. It was him, my new neighbor. He introduced himself with a flat smile, like he was mimicking what friendliness was supposed to look like. His eyes never quite met mine. They hovered, flicked around, and finally settled on me, too intensely. I asked him directly, "Were you the one knocking on my door last night?" And just as casually, he admitted it. No excuse, no explanation. I told him politely that I wasn't comfortable with people knocking on my door so late. He nodded, said, "Of course," and walked away. But that was just the beginning. Over the next few months, I began to notice something. Every time I stepped outside, every time he appeared. I'd go to check the mail, and he'd emerge from his front door like he was just waiting. I'd step into my backyard to water my garden, and I'd look up to find him standing there, not on his property, but on the edge of mine, just watching. At first, I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe he just had a lot of free time. Maybe he was lonely. But eventually, the pattern became impossible to ignore. He would sit there, motionless, eyes fixed on my front door like he was guarding it, or stalking it. Sometimes he didn't come all the way over. He'd just walk into the middle of the street between our houses and stare. No words, no wave. Just standing there, unmoving, eyes locked onto me. When he did speak, it was awkward. Always uncomfortable. He'd try to ask about my day, or if I was going anywhere special. But more often than not, he'd ask if I had a boyfriend. I lied, said I did. But even that didn't make him back off. I started to feel trapped in my own home. I stopped going outside unless I had to. I'd wait behind the blinds to make sure he wasn't on his porch before checking the mailbox. But he was always there. It got to the point where I'd sit in my living room and get this feeling that something was just outside, watching. I'd check, but the curtains would move and the shadow of his figure would be gone. Like he knew exactly when to vanish. Then, he started showing up in town. I live in a small area. You see the same people at the grocery store, the post office, the gas station. So at first I tried to convince myself it was just chance. But no, this wasn't a coincidence. I'd be shopping, turn the corner, and there he was, standing in the next aisle. No cart, no basket. Just standing, watching. I'd pull into a gas station, and moments later, he'd pull up beside me, not to get gas. He wouldn't even get out of the car. He'd just sit there, watching me pump mine. Sometimes he'd smile, sometimes he didn't. But it was never friendly. It happened too many times. Same routine, same blank expression. He wasn't just my neighbor anymore. He was following me, I told everyone I could, my friends, my family, our mutual landlord. I even told the landlord, right after the very first late-night knock, making it clear I valued my privacy. He said he'd talk to the guy, but nothing changed. After months of these run-ins, I told the landlord again, explained that I believed he was stalking me. This time, the landlord promised to speak with him and said that if anything else happened, he'd be evicted. It sounded like something was finally going to be done. I even spoke to a close friend whose husband was a cop. He listened patiently, then told me the truth I didn't want to hear. Unless he made a threat or physically harmed me, there wasn't much anyone could do. I could file a report, sure, but without concrete proof of danger, it would just sit there. I was told my best options were to move, or wait and hope the landlord followed through. Eventually, the landlord did kick him out, but not because of what he was doing to me. Turns out, the guy had stopped paying his rent. He was months behind. The whole family was evicted. I finally learned what was really going on behind their closed doors. The landlord told me the house was wrecked. Holes in the walls, floors gouged and torn, hundreds, literally hundreds, of empty liquor bottles in the basement, needles scattered in the yard, burnt foil in the kitchen sink. They even left their dog behind, locked in the house, half-starved, whimpering in the dark. If the landlord hadn't gone in that day, the dog would have died. He took them to court for damages and unpaid rent. I never found out where they moved. And honestly, I don't want to know. I haven't seen that man since, not in town, not in passing. It's like he disappeared, melted into the shadows he seemed to come from. Now, I have a new neighbor. Seen his car a few times. His dog sometimes barks from the porch, but that's it. No knocks, no staring, no questions, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for that silence.